That's good. for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll take a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So move.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Good news. Well, Santa made it to town and made it down Central Avenue. He's down at the library right now. There was a lot of people there. Yeah, I know. We seem to always have a council meeting on the same night they do that. I think that's their way of telling us they don't want us to come. Anyway,
Not find that funny,
no.
Tim?
Any other good news?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, on
Yeah.
tonight's agenda, we have three projects to be paid for, change orders, which reduces the contract's amount, and so that's always good news when we had three of them.
Very well. Yes, that is good. Anyone else? Okay, we have a few public hearings here, so we'll just start right in with item 3, public hearing.
Public hearing on the question of amending the urban renewal plan for the Fort Dodge Housing Urban Renewal Area and designating an expanded Fort Dodge Housing Urban Renewal Area pursuant to Chapter 403 Code of Iowa by adding and including property in the city of Fort Dodge, Webster County, Iowa. Proposed amendment to the plan brings the property described above under the plan and makes it subject to the provisions of the plan. The amendment would facilitate the undertaking of a new urban renewal project in the urban renewal area consisting of using tax increment financing to support the construction of public infrastructure improvements necessary for the developing of new housing.
We'll declare the public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public on this hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 3A.
Resolution approving an amendment to the city's housing urban renewal area and plan.
Mr. Mayor, so move.
Been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 3B.
First consideration of ordinance number 2278, an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the November 2017 addition to the Fort Dodge Housing Urban Renewal Area pursuant to Section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move agenda item 3B as read.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 4 is a public hearing.
Public hearing on the question of amending the plans for the Center City and Industrial Park Urban Renewal and designating expanded Center City and Industrial Park Urban Renewal areas pursuant to Chapter 403 Code of Iowa. The proposed amendment to the plans, number 1, covers the addition of property to the urban renewal areas, and number 2, authorizes the undertaking of new urban renewal projects in the urban renewal areas consistent of A, using tax increment financing to support Main Street Fort Dodge Incorporated as it carries out programs and activities to promote the city as a Main Street Iowa community, and B, using tax increment financing to support People's Credit Union in connection with the redevelopment of blighted property into a new commercial banking facility, and C, using tax increment financing in support of improvements in the Fort Dodge Corridor Self-Supported Municipal Improvements District, and finally, D, using tax increment financing in support of improvements in economic development initiatives in the downtown Fort Dodge Self-Supported Municipal Improvement District.
I was wondering if you were going to read all those numbers. I was like, holy moly. If David would have read this, I would have asked him to read them just because I like messing with him to make David read those things. He loves reading numbers and garbage collection schedules. So, all right, we'll declare this public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public? This is on a vast group of objects that are things we're working on in the city using tax increment finance. Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to 4A.
Resolution to approve an amendment to the city's Center City and Industrial Park Urban Renewal Plan.
Mr. Mayor, so move.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments from the public? Anything from the table?
I believe mine is mostly regarding, for,
Anything else from the table? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 4B.
First consideration of ordinance number 2279, an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the November 2017 Center City and Industrial Park Urban Renewal Areas Edition pursuant to Section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move agenda item 4B as read.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? From the table?
yes. So I see that we're primarily just adding the area on Fifth Avenue South and South 13th Street on the south side of the road. And my question is, in regards to just a couple blocks down the road on Fifth Avenue South and 15th Street, we just recently bought some property of which we have torn down for potential future development. Would now be a good time to add that area to this as well? Because it's always been my understanding that best to add a larger area if you feel that you're going to need it than to pick a little spot here and then, let's say a year or two down the road, then we find someone that wants to develop that part. Now we're adding that part, that little piece again.
Vicki Reek from the Business Affairs and Community Growth. We are adding the parcel is at 17th and 5th Avenue South. It's for the People's Credit Union project.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we don't add additional property at this time is because we don't have a project scheduled for other property, and the time clock starts when you start the TIF district. There's a 20-year clock that starts, and so we'd rather just wait until we have something in place
Okay,
so that we can capture all the TIF that we.
great. Makes sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah, when they changed that law a
I
couple
thought it
years
was
back.
once you just service the debt.
No, it's once you put it in
add
the
the
urban
debt.
renewal and create the TIF district,
Clock
the clock starts and you got 20 years. If nothing happens in that 20 years, you can't re-up it, you can't change it, you can't
Okay.
amend it.
Good to
You
know.
can refinance something inside of a district, but unless it's pre-97, or excuse me, pre-95, it expires after 20 years.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem.
Good answer.
Okay. Was there any other questions from the table? All those in favor of 4B, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. Item 5 is a public hearing.
Public hearing to consider an ordinance adopting the 2015 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code for the city of Fort Dodge, Iowa.
We'll declare the public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 5A.
First consideration of ordinance number 2280, an ordinance of the city of Fort Dodge adopting the 2015 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code, regulating and governing the conditions and maintenance of all property, buildings, and structures in the city.
It's been moved and seconded.
Chad Schaefer, Director of Engineering and Business Affairs. What Councilmember Hill is talking about is Section 302.8 in this ordinance, and it deals with parking of vehicles. Really, the intent of this section is to enforce the rule that we don't want to allow vehicles to be parked in the grass. So whether it's on gravel, existing gravel, or recycled asphalt or concrete or some other surfacing, the intent of the ordinance is that to eliminate those vehicles that are parking in the grass. And so one of the items that Councilmember Hill brought up is that maybe we can put together a policy statement that just clarifies that intent, so that it's both from a council standpoint, but also from a city staff standpoint, to make sure that everybody knows what the intent is, and that, the city staff is not going to go out and start making people, if they have an existing gravel driveway, put in some other hard surfacing. That's not the intent of this ordinance. So we could just do a quick policy statement on that and make sure you're all comfortable with that.
Don't you think it'd be better to go ahead and change the ordinance and put it, something writing in the ordinance itself?
That's something you certainly could do. I guess I would ask legal counsel if that would be, something we would want to do. It could be done either way. But in order to move this forward tonight, you'd have to make that amendment, because to get the 3 readings in before the end of the year, first reading has to be tonight.
Is there a hurry to get this done then, Chad?
It just sets us up for the springtime, but if we don't do it tonight, then we would wait until after the first of the year.
I mean, what changes are you looking for? That gravel would be grandfathered in? Isn't that already the case?
It doesn't really say that, because it says that it's only parking is allowed in designated hard surface driveways. And so, in order for somebody, if that has a gravel driveway now, if that was the interpretation, then they would be required to put in a concrete or asphalt driveway, and that's not the intent.
And it's always been my understanding that a grandfather clause does not pertain to these property maintenance issues.
What, as far as I'm concerned, in prosecuting?
Well,
them?
It doesn't in regards to the person that comes to check your boxes on your property inspection sheet.
I understand that, but if the city inspector came to me and said, hey, they're parking on a gravel driveway that's been in existence for 10 years, I'm going to say, I'm not going to prosecute that, because I don't know that you can take this property maintenance code and go and change a pre-existing condition. I don't think that's the purpose of it.
We've done that.
A lot of landlords
Numerous
are
times
just
with
going to
windows.
pay it, fix it to make it go away.
With windows, we have cases where the window didn't make the new standard, so we've made people tear a window out that may not even have been very old,
Including
put
brick
in a
buildings.
window that makes the standard. So we did not look at it as pre-existing non-conforming.
I think we should.
We looked at it as the standard's the standard, and you got to meet it.
Then we can certainly amend it.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna change my motion. I'm gonna make a motion to table this until we can get this straightened out.
The motion and a second to table. There's no debate. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that's tabled. We'll just bring that back after the first year.
Well, I was going to ask, how would you like to straighten it out? Do you want to have a workshop where we go over these items? Because that's more conducive than at the table when we're trying to vote on stuff. So
Right.
I can, we can schedule a workshop yet here. in
What did you
December
try to
sometime.
draft some language and circulate it? And I'd like to see something with the windows too.
I'd like to see something that, okay, well, if I put in my water heater 12 years ago, it met the code then, but doesn't meet it today or next year. Well, it did meet the code at one time. I don't understand why people should be having to meet this. It met the code at one time. I agree that there should be some sort of grandfather clause that allows that to continue, because we don't do it with people's private residential properties. We're not going to go to someone's house and say, you need to pull out your windows because they're
Well, this
too high.
applies to both.
It applies to
Except we're not going to go into a resident.
the
It's
exterior
not a rental.
of owner-occupied
Yeah, not the
single-family
interior.
house. It doesn't apply to the interior. it
Right,
doesn't
so
apply to
like the
windows or-
window being too high off the floor or whatever the case is not going to apply to a residential owner-occupied home.
Correct.
That's correct.
And those are some very costly fixes that would need to be made that it met the code at one time. At one point, someone said that was totally okay.
And then I'd suggest a workshop because I don't think anybody wants to go through that code and try to figure out every possible pre-existing condition and
Yeah.
write that in there. So
Right.
I think before we do that, I'd like to know exactly your major concerns with this and be just a blanket.
Well, my concern is
Existing condition.
we've had people that, and I'm being told this second, third hand, but have been told through an inspection, you have a window that doesn't open to 90 degrees, so it doesn't make the new fire code. Well, if they pulled a permit in 1998, put those windows in, and that window opens to 85, it's pre-existing non-conforming, unless in 1998, they put them in against code. If they put them in against the code in 1998, then it should never have gotten put in, but if they pulled a permit and we inspected it, I don't know how we then say, well, now it's 2017, you got to change that window out. Because we don't do that to owner occupied, we only do that to rental property. And some of this stuff I know is related to owner occupied, but it's also being used in some of the landlord inspections as well. So, we're not even supposed to be debating right now.
No,
but-
you've already had to vote.
Yeah,
so we can talk about it as much as you want.
Yeah.
But I think the most conducive thing is, the windows and the driveways. We can have another workshop on the property maintenance code and address those issues and how we can enforce it. If it becomes a matter of an amendment to the code or a policy or whatever, we can do that. I mean, and we can bring examples of both, to whatever fits your comfort level.
Okay.
Fritz, are you recommending that we wait till January?
I wouldn't want to take. In the word.
Awful nice of.
Gentleman and a scholar.
All right, we're going to move on to item 6, public hearing.
Public hearing to consider proposed nuisance assessments for August and September 2017.
We'll declare the public hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there anyone here to address the council on this public hearing item? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to 6A.
Resolution adopting assessment schedule for nuisance abatement in the city of Fort Dodge and confirming levying the assessments.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move agenda item 6A.
Been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. Item 7 is a public hearing.
Public hearing to consider the disposal of property at 224 South 16th Street, Fort Dodge, Webster County, Iowa.
We'll declare the hearing open and ask first for written comment.
There were no written comments.
Is there any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and move to item 7A.
Resolution approving the disposition of 224 South 16th Street and method of selecting a developer.
Mr. Mayor, so move.
Been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimously. Next item is committee and department reports, correspondence, and proclamations, and I have a proclamation here this evening for Paul.
Yep.
I don't think I look very good on it. Do a proclamation here. This is a proclamation of thanks, whereas Paul Neeson has served the city of Fort Dodge starting on October 19th, 1987. And whereas he started his career with the city of Fort Dodge serving in the capacity of firefighter with the Fort Dodge Fire Department, and whereas he received a commendation for his heroic efforts in the Hotel Islanders fire on February 3rd, 1994, while serving in the capacity of firefighter with the Fort Dodge Fire Department. And whereas he achieved the rank of Master Firefighter on October 19, 2001 with the Fort Dodge Fire Department. And whereas he achieved the rank of captain on September 21st, 2005 with the Fort Dodge Fire Department. And whereas he has spent the past 35 years of his career with the city of Fort Dodge serving in the Fort Dodge Fire Department. And whereas he has now decided to enjoy the fruits of his efforts in retirement with his final day as an employee of the city of Fort Dodge to be November 16, 2017. And whereas the city of Fort Dodge wishes to express its thanks and appreciation for his many years of fine service to the citizens of Fort Dodge. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Matt Bemrick, Mayor of the City of Fort Dodge, do hereby proclaim an official proclamation of thanks to Paul Neeson for his many years of service to the City of Fort Dodge and its citizens.
I had a couple words I wanted to share here, and I want to start off with probably one of my favorite fire service quotations. It's by Edward Crocker. He was the chief of New York City Fire Department in 1910. When a man becomes a fireman, his greatest act of bravery has been accomplished. What he does after that is all in the line of work. Tonight, we're here to honor the career of Captain Paul Neeson. We honor his service, his heroism, his accomplishments during the past 30 years of service with Fort Dodge Fire Department. Paul began his career October 19th, 1987. Captain Neeson worked many incidents with people who were trapped in buildings on fire, citizens who were having life and death medical emergencies, and people who were trapped in rescue situations such as motor vehicle accidents. For myself and the members of the department, Paul left his mark by always leading from the front. Paul was an EMT at Fort Dodge Fire Department before it was mandatory. He was a founding member of our regional hazmat response team. And from day one, Paul has been an active member of the International Association of Firefighters, Local 622, and Paul served as president for a number of years. Paul will always be remembered for always being there. If it was 2 p.m. in the afternoon or 2 a.m. in the morning and the fire department was recalling people back to work during an emergency, Paul was always there. Our last two fires that we recalled people back to work of recent, Paul was at both of them. So countless times he came in for ambulance transfers and for fires. So he had 30 years on the job, but probably 35, 40 years of the extra time he spent there. He was always there an hour before work shift started too. I will always remember Paul for his birthday fire helmet. I knew that'd get a laugh out of him. Paul had this, it's a tradition that's gone away, but whenever a member had a birthday and they were working, the shift would get together and they were required to bring a cake and we would sing happy birthday to him. So some of our young guys up there need to start that again. But Paul had his own special, it was a child's plastic fire helmet. It had a red light and a siren, and Paul would stand up on the kitchen chair and lead the happy birthday singing, and I'll always remember that. It was the highlight. I think some people fake their birthdays just to make him get up and sing. So Paul, your job has been well done, and now the page is turned. And when people ask what you did in your life, it can be answered, I was a Fort Dodge firefighter, and that will be enough. So I have Paul's captain's fire helmet, and I wanted to present that to him.
I wrote this real small, so it looked like it'd take up a lot of. When I was hired in 1987, I was excited and apprehensive. Excited about a new job and apprehensive about what I was getting myself into. I quickly learned it was not a job, but a profession, a career, another family of brothers and sisters. Through 30 years, I worked for 11 chiefs, many assistant chiefs, captains, lieutenants, and many senior firefighters, all of which passed on to me how to be the best in the best career in the world. One important tidbit was to know when it was time. Now is the time. I'm grateful to the citizens of Fort Dodge, dispatchers, Region 5 Hazmat, Trinity EMS and ER, Police, Public Works, City Hall, for allowing me to be part of this. I know I left some of them out, but it was not intentional. Most of all, I want to thank my brothers and sisters, firefighters, for all their hard work and dedication. I said to most of them when I got to this position, my job here is to make old firefighters of all of them. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We have another good news recognition. Jeannie Nimitz. Okay, there she. Thought I saw her.
Good evening, Ryan Mell, Assistant Recreation Director. Mr. Mayor, City Council, and staff, for this opportunity to share some extraordinary good news. It is with great pride that I share that Miss Janine Nimitz, Foster Grandparent Program Director, has been tabbed as President-elect for the National Association of Foster Grandparent Program Directors. She has been selected by her profession as a leader and will serve a 2-year term, continuing and building upon all of the association's recent successes. This is an amazing opportunity for Janine, but also for the City of Fort Dodge, as her experiences as president of the association comes with numerous networking opportunities. Her now common conversations with governmental leaders allow her to share the importance of the program for Fort Dodge and also for those programs across the entire country. Also, this great venture led to Janine being recognized by Governor Kim Reynolds. Janine was awarded the State of Iowa Governor's Volunteer Award in Council Bluffs recently. Janine is a very important part of our success of our foster grandparent program, as well as student achievement that happens throughout Webster County elementary schools. Foster grandparents spend more than 36,000 hours with over 1,500 students, providing one-on-one contact time and always leading as excellent role models to our youth. Janine, thank you. We're all proud of you and thank you for your continued efforts. I know you want to speak a little bit too.
Well, I wanted to speak until Paul spoke, and I'm not really sure how to follow that. Congratulations, Paul. I am very excited to represent the City of Fort Dodge as the president of the National Association of Foster Grandparent Program Directors. We have the opportunity to meet with everyone from congressional leaders to presidential appointees and shape the rules and the laws that affect national service and most specifically foster grandparents. For 50 years, foster grandparents have served the children of our country. It was originally part of the War on Poverty, signed in 1965. The really exciting thing for us in Fort Dodge is we've had a program here sponsored by the city since 1972. The average foster grandparent in Fort Dodge, because they have their means tested, but our average grandparent has a household income of about $14,000 a year. So the fact that they can earn a stipend of $2.65 an hour by serving the children of our community means that we spend every dollar twice, once to help the kids and the second time to help those grandparents who serve. As Ryan said, 1,500 kids every year, and so you don't have to be a math whiz to know that I could turn this over to the banker, but you don't have to be a math whiz to know that since 1972, that's a lot of kids who have benefited from reading, tutoring, just mentoring and support, as well as lots of high fives and nose wiping and shoes tied and zippers zipped. So I'm really proud to be able to bring kind of a rural perspective to the national level. The things that affect our community and our children, as well as our senior citizens, are different than those in a metropolitan area. And so it's exciting for me to get to bring those stories to Washington, D.C. at least 2 times a year. And I have learned so much in my previous 4 years on the board that really has benefited our program here in Fort Dodge, given us some good tips on how to train our grandparents, how to best serve our kids. And so I look forward to being able to represent my fellow foster grandparent directors throughout the country. And I want to thank the City of Fort Dodge for giving me the opportunity to serve on this board. And I want to just share our national brochure, because we're pretty proud of this and how much support we have had throughout the years. When I was here last spring, Mayor Bemrick had just returned from a trip to DC, and the president had proposed to eliminate us. Congress at the time overwhelmingly said no, they didn't want to see that happen. And as we move into next week, where a continuing resolution happens and we don't know what the federal budget will be, we have moved full steam ahead with our grandparents, placing some new ones this fall, unfortunately burying a long-time grandparent last week. And so as we do this, we just know that our focus is on the children of our community, which are the future, and on our seniors, which have chosen to make Fort Dodge their retirement home. So I thank you for this recognition and the privilege of serving as the director for the City of Fort Dodge.
Thanks, Jeannie. It's a great program, and I've had the opportunity to visit with some foster grandparents at schools and witness the connection they make with some of the kids in their classrooms, and they really do think of them as grandparents. They see them on the street, they call them grandma and grandpa. It is an amazing thing to watch and to see these kids and how the interaction is has a lot of dynamics to it. So it's a great program. I've lobbied for it a couple times on behalf of our community to keep the funding secure for it, because it really has made a difference. And you'll talk to people who remember the name of their grandma or grandpa that they had, or their grandparent in their program, but they may not even remember their teacher's name, but they always seem to remember that grandma or grandpa. So no offense to any teachers. I didn't put you in that category at all. So thanks again, Jeannie. Okay, is there any other department report? Anything else? Oh, wait, I should probably switch it. Yeah. We will move on to item 9, comments and questions from the public. Any comments or questions not on the agenda? Anything on the consent agenda? Okay, we'll move to item 10, the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing items Y and AA for separate vote.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, removing Y and AA. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? So that passed unanimous. Item Y.
Resolution authorizing the release of mortgage for partial payment on 927 4th Avenue North.
Mr. Mayor, so move.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the table?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I asked to remove this one. Vicki, come up. Just had a couple questions here. Why is the property owner moving? Why is a property owner moving?
For probably more space and a different neighborhood.
Okay. And then she wants to own it as a rental property, correct?
Correct.
Which I think defeats the whole purpose of why what we want to establish in that neighborhood. I guess I'd be almost in favor of forgiving the entire balance as long as it remains a single property ownership. I guess another question is, I don't know if it can be known or not, but does the first mortgage exceed the actual market value of the property itself?
The first mortgage and the second mortgage together exceed the fair market value.
Okay.
And for a little background, she did look into selling it. She was able to get an offer of where the city would get $10,000 of our second mortgage, and the new buyer would use it as a rental property. So whether she sells it to someone else, once that second mortgage is paid off, it can be used for rental or whatever purpose. With this scenario, the city would get $15,000 rather than $10,000. The other scenario would be as if she just walked from the property, and then we would get nothing.
We get the property.
There's
After
a
the
first
bank.
mortgage holder. We'd have to pay off the first mortgage.
Do we know what the first mortgage note is for?
Yes.
What the balance is? What?
$35,000.
And so 35.
There's 2 units that were sold within the last 2 years that sold for $40,000 a piece.
Right, those are the ones we sold.
Right. Hers, she had an offer for $45,000 because she had done some work to the basement, added an additional bedroom. She got an offer for $45,000. With that offer, the city would have gotten $10,000.
Because of commission fees, I'm guessing?
No, just because the first mortgage is $35,000 and
Oh,
there's
yes,
only $10,000.
thank you.
She worked with a realtor, do you know?
No.
Because I couldn't find anywhere where the house was ever listed, which means that she was trying to sell it herself without any professional advice.
Correct.
Yeah, I have a problem with that.
Need lots more information is kind of where I'm at.
Well, I think it speaks to the overall problem in that neighborhood, and I know we've always had side discussions about what we need to do, and I call it the Corpus Christi neighborhood. We seem to take one step forward here, and then it's 2 steps back, and we're back to rental properties, and this is a newer property, and I would hate to see it go to a rental, and then we're right back to where we were again, and this is no fault of anybody's, but we've got to do something about this neighborhood. It just continues to just deteriorate away, and I really would like to see us focus on more and more. And I know we're doing all we can. We're overburdened with a lot of projects, and I'm not sure how I'm going to vote. I have a tendency to vote against it because I feel frustrated that we're right back to where we were on a newer property, and it's just going to do nothing, in my opinion, but to dilapidate. And I think the people in the neighborhood we are frustrated as well. I don't know that factually, but it frustrates me.
But Vicki, if this house is sold to another person, there's nothing saying that it couldn't be rental property?
Correct. As long as our mortgage is satisfied. Now, you could not accept a partial payment, which then would require us to foreclose on it. But since we're in second position, we'd have to pay off the first mortgage.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find where it states the owner's name.
I did not put that in there for confidential.
Oh, well, it's public record on Webster County Assessor's Office. So according to that, I'm assuming it's Danielle and Mark Scotia.
Yes.
Who purchased it in May of 2015.
Correct.
Through quitclaim deed. It is assessed at $101,630, which I'm not going to argue that you would never sell it for that amount. What I would argue is why a person would sit there on a $45,000 piece of property and pay $100,000 in taxes for it when they just recently had the opportunity to go and dispute that with the county. And they would have won, hands down, easily, with a 5-minute phone call. So I'm curious as to why they would not do that. Is this still under a tax abatement?
Well, Vicky
It
can't
is.
speak to that. I mean,
It is still under tax
yeah,
abatement. That's
So,
probably why.
that would most likely be why.
$40
But I
a
mean,
year.
Vicky, you can't speak to why they didn't do that.
No, I would not expect her to speak to that. I would expect them to speak to that. I'm just in a position as myself, as I feel like, you know, we create these programs for people to be able to take advantage of to better their situations, and we're the ones that always get the bad end of it. We're the ones always picking up what they didn't account for. So they don't take any risk. They want to play investor, they want to play developer, but they don't want to play risk taker. And I'm just, it's just frustrating. It's constant.
So there's a motion and a second on the table. Is there any other comment?
So would there be any other alternatives than what we have here?
So the alternatives would be, she could sell it for fair market value, whatever is not, gained in proceeds to pay off the city's mortgage. There is an option for us to forgive the remaining of the mortgage. That's right in the promissory note. So she could sell it for the $45,000 to the buyer that she has, and if the city deems that as a fair market value, we would get $10,000, and the new buyer could make it rental or whatever they want to do with it. Could require her to pay the entire balance, which is $20,000. She's asking for $15,000 to be paid. If she paid the $20,000 off, we really have nothing to say because she's paid off everything that the city has provided. The third option would be as if she wanted to walk away from the property, which she doesn't want to do. Then the first mortgager would get the property unless the city wants to pay off the first mortgage, which is $35,000.
I'm of the opinion that she's walking away from it, or they are walking away from it regardless. Whether that's by asking us to take this deal or asking us to take the deal when they walk and it's foreclosed on. What I don't understand and what you can't answer is, why are they just not willing to just pay down their mortgage like a person should? That's why they signed the contract to do it. Well, I don't understand why they're just not going to stay put and pay the money that they legally are obligated to owe instead of making other people eat it because they don't want to take responsibility for what they did.
I'd also point out that it is a forgivable mortgage. She's lived there for 5 years, so in 5 years, if she lives there 5 more years, she would pay us nothing.
My point exactly.
Vicky, if we would require the 20,000 whatever balance, is there any guarantee we're going to get that from her? Aside, I mean, saying she could walk away from what we've got in front of us now. She's got fair market value to sell. We might only get 10,000. How do we actually require her to pay that 20,000?
I don't even know if you could
I don't-
sue her. Well, you can sue anybody, but yeah, she's got a promissory note that's forgivable. If she moves and exits the property and there's no proceeds in addition to the proceeds of the sale, I don't believe she's personally liable for it.
Sure she is. She signed a contract that stated
But it's
that I'll
forgivable.
take this money, and as long as I stay this long, then it's forgiven. If I don't stay that long, then you're in breach of the contract and therefore can be sued. I'm not an attorney, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident with that.
I just think reality is such, we're not going to get it back. I think what Vicky's proposed here is the best option. My concern is the continual decline of the neighborhood, and we as a city need to look at that. That's my only point. I'm inclined to vote in favor of it because I think it is the best option for taxpayers. But I just frustrated that we have a plan here that we put in place several years ago, and we're taking 2 steps back.
I just want to point out that the other two properties that were sold recently were in lieu of foreclosure, and we received $10,000 for both units. Both of them sold for $40,000 apiece, so each one provided $5,000 to the city as a repayment, and we ate the rest of that. So
So for those, we got 5 out of the 10 back.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Mr. Flattery on this. I think this is the best scenario that we can come up with. There's no guarantee that someday it won't be rental property. So I think that the 15,000 is the best scenario that we're gonna get.
There's just not a lot of options. That's the tough thing. And I mean, we could spend some more money and time trying to have Mark chase down more money, but I don't necessarily know you're going to get any. I mean, what's your opinion?
Your recommendation is the city would eat $5,000. Take it.
Yeah, it's going to cost us more to hire an attorney.
Well,
I don't think it's.
I don't think it'll cost you more in attorney's fees, but you're going to pay something in attorney's fees and may very well get nothing as a result of whatever you spend. So
It's tough. I mean, that neighborhood, we were trying to duplicate the neighborhood behind the old fairway there, and it did, when the community development block grants for housing revitalization went away, we were just kind of stuck trying to do what we could do with the money we had. So, I mean, it's not a fault of staff or poor planning or process. It's the federal government said, we're not going to fund this program anymore. And we were kind of right in the middle of it. We were right in the heart of it. It worked great behind Guild Fairway. That neighborhood done really well, Parkview, but it just didn't materialize the same way on North 9th Street and in that vicinity. If we could come up with another way to fund those things, that you might be able to do some different things and get rid of some other housing and create some investment opportunity for people to build, single family homes. But so far, there hasn't been a lot of people trying to invest in that area, and most of them that have not done that well, including the city. So, any other comments or questions?
All it's to the reason for moving is that she wants a more desirable place. He, she, they.
Yeah.
So that's where I have an issue with it. I think people need to start being accountable for the decisions that they make.
I don't disagree, but I think staff's doing their best this is the highest accountability factor they could produce without us engaging.
So if I understand this correctly, then the intent is for the current owner to then use this as a rental property.
correct.
And generate revenue from that rental property.
Correct.
So I don't understand why we can't ask for a piece of that revenue to cover the $5,000 that's going to be short.
Try.
$100 a month will get you there before her 10-year period is up, of which she was originally being asked to stay in and to have it forgiven. I think that's more than fair. That's what any other person who went and borrowed money from a bank to make an investment would be required or asked to do, unless they're willing to walk away and have their property foreclosed on and deal with the repercussions of that. And what you're going to then go do to buy a new piece of property. I just think that they're just getting to walk away free. There's no consequences for the decisions that they made. If this was a 15-year-old kid, I might think differently, but it's not. I won't be voting to do this. I think that it's time that people just be held accountable. I am.
That's something you want me to look into, or?
Well, let's vote and see what happens. So let's go roll call. Mr. Flattery?
Aye.
Mr. Halter?
Nay.
Mr. Conrad?
Aye.
Mr. Fritz? Aye. Mr. Alstott?
Aye.
Mr. Menke?
Aye.
Mr. Hill? So that passed with Mr. Halter voting nay. Okay, item AA.
Contract for professional services in the amount of $17,800 to ISG for master plan update, Snell Crawford Park.
Mr. Mayor, I would move item AA.
Second, comment, table?
Mr. Mayor, I asked to pull this. I was just wondering about the status of the netting out at Harlan. I saw that we had $60K budgeted, but it's not going to happen this year. What were the plans for the netting? Were we going to go back or up?
Up.
Up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we were doing with that netting is that I had budgeted in this fiscal year that $60,000 to be paid out of Parks Hotel Motel for the netting on the mini majors for protection from foul balls. So that we've been putting together some projects. It's just not done yet. It still is going to get done. It's just it didn't get done yet for this coming spring. But we're going to be focusing on, it will be focusing on Fenway, and it will go up instead of going all the way. The original, if some of you remember, the original plans for that was to take from the concession stand, the netting from the middle, and kind of going to each backstop. But really to do that didn't make much sense because Dodger doesn't have any impact to the concessions in the fields in front. But the feel was that really that Wrigley and Fenway were the two culprits. So we were going to start there and do it a little bit not engineered out, but trying to work with Beacon to work on a kind of a kit to do it.
Is there, and I see that this contract's for about $18,000. Is there any way we could still possibly address Wrigley? I know that's the biggest issue, and year after year, I just think we're going to have a concession stand worker that's going to take one off the teeth.
Oh, I know. I've been there and watched them buzz through the head, and I've seen it hit the people in the stands too. So it is a project is going to get done. It's just not ready at this particular time. So I felt that we had enough money within the budget, and we actually have a nice balance in there that we could absorb that in. But it was just to say that we haven't spent it this fiscal year. I don't think it's going to get spent this fiscal year, but it'll roll over into fiscal year 19.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Okay. We've got item AA on the table. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. Item 11A, please.
Third consideration of ordinance number 2276, an ordinance establishing the Corridor Self-Supported Municipal Improvements District, otherwise known as CSMID, along Fifth Avenue South pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 386 of the Code of Iowa, and providing for the establishment of certain funds and the levy of annual taxes in connection therewith.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table?
Maggie Carlin, Associate Planner. Since emailing out the staff report last week, we've gotten one additional signature and support. So we're actually sitting at 51% total property owner support and 55% total assessed value support. And those values don't factor in several other verbal support that we've also received. So
Awesome.
Good.
Good stuff. Thank you. Other comments from the table? Hearing none, all those in favor of 11A, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. 11B.
Resolution approving internal advance for Corridor Self-Supported Improvement District.
Been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor of 11B, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. 11C.
Third consideration of ordinance number 2277, an ordinance amending the City of Fort Dodge, Iowa Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 9.24 pyrotechnics.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move agenda item 11C as read.
Been moved and seconded. Last reading on fireworks. Anybody from the public? Anybody from the table?
Betcha. Just a real, no, it's, I'm not gonna say anything like that. I'm just gonna ask Bill, over Thanksgiving, I had a few family members ask about the time on January 1st and December 31st. And it was printed in there as 12:30 PM. And so I had people calling me and complaining that this is stupid. Why are we going till 12:30 PM on January 1st? So I'm just asking, please proofread this one and make it so it's 12:30 AM on the 1st. That's it. Just a personal favor.
His last one, you won't ever ask again.
And I
Okay.
still think we should have fireworks year round.
All right. So we're on 11C. Is there any additional comment? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thought maybe you'd get a nay out of you. for the
I
last
really
one.
thought about it,
Okay.
but I didn't
Show
want
that
Richard
passed
to come after me.
unanimous. Item 12, final payments. Item 12A, please.
Change order number 4, decreasing the contract in the amount of $4,306.95 and pay application number 13 final in the amount of $104,800.77 from Wicks Construction for the East Region Phase 2 project.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve change order number 4 and pay application number 13 final to Wicks Construction. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. Item 12B.
Change order number 4, decreasing the contract in the amount of $56,201.69 and pay estimate number 20, subfinal in the amount of $58,875.53 from Wicks Construction for the Crosstown Connector Industrial Park project.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve change order number 4 and pay estimate number 20 to Wicks Construction.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? From the table? All those in favor of 12B, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 12C.
Change order number 4, decreasing the contract in the amount of $68,933.57 and pay estimate number 12, final, in the amount of $63,169.06 from Crow River Construction for the CSI Hydraulics Upgrade G02 Basin Project.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve change order number 4, pay estimate number 12 final, Crow River Construction. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? All those in favor of 12C, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. Item 12D.
Final payment to Jensen Builders in the amount of $32,141 for the North 7th Street Trail connection.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the final payment to Jensen Builders for the trail.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show that passed unanimous. Item 12E.
Final payment to Jensen Builders in the amount of $1,422.52 for the 2017 PCC Patch 926 Loop Project.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the final payment to Jensen Builders for the patch on Highway 926.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? From the table? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So that passed unanimous. Item 12F.
Change order number 4 in the amount of $15,963.69 and pay estimate number 6 subfinal in the amount of $45,563.33 from Fort Dodge Asphalt the 2017 street repair project.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve change order number 4, pay estimate number 6, subfinal to Fort Dodge Asphalt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Comments from the public? Anything from the table? Hearing none, all those in favor of 12F, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So that passed unanimous. Last item is comments and questions from the public. Is there any additional comments or questions? Hearing none. Oh, you want to make a comment?
I would like to before we make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
In the past, in regards to settlements, we could call them, and this is me going back to item Y with the Fourth Avenue house. In the past, I feel like we as council members have had an opportunity to be in on those negotiations prior to it being an amendment item. And I would just like to have that opportunity moving forward. Primarily, I say that because I think $100 a month over 5 years would have gotten us paid back. And I think she's going to be more than netting that off of now turning this into a rental property. So our loss has now become her gain. So I would like to be a part of those negotiations in the future. Or I will continue to vote against them and encourage my colleagues to go as well.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
We never get a second anything.